Our first wedding anniversary was supposed to be a celebration, a quiet, deliberate acknowledgement that despite everything, we were still choosing each other. I had it planned for months. Same restaurant where I proposed. Same table by the window. I even made sure to get the same bottle of wine we ordered that night. Nostalgia, I figured, is a form of love preservation. Reminding each other of where we started even if the present feels different. Haley didn't forget the date. That would have been easier. She just gave it away like it was negotiable. I have to fly out with Derek tomorrow morning, she said, stirring almond milk into her coffee like she hadn't just detonated our evening. Chicago. Last-minute pitch to a client. I'll be back Thursday. This was a Wednesday. Our anniversary was Thursday. Wait, what? I tried to keep my voice level even as my stomach dropped. The dinner, I made plans. You knew that. I didn't have a choice, Lucas, she said quickly, not even looking up. It's work. You know how it is. She always said that when she didn't want to explain something, you know how it is. The phrase was a door she closed and locked behind her. I nodded slowly. Right? Sure. The rest of the morning passed like a muted film, one of those wordless montages where two people live in the same space but in separate frames. She packed, answered work calls, moved through our house like a guest with a flight to catch. I kissed her goodbye at the curb, told her to be safe, and watched the Uber drive off with a sinking feeling I couldn't explain. That night, I sat at our dining table and ate the takeout I had ordered because the reservation felt pointless. I left the flowers in the vase anyway. She didn't call that night. Just a short text, long day. Crashing early. Hope your day was okay. XO. 3 days later, I picked her up from the airport. She looked tired but beautiful, like always. Makeup done. Sunglasses tucked into her hair. That effortless thing she had where she could walk off a plane and look like she just stepped out of a fashion ad. I kissed her cheek and took her bag from her, trying to pretend I wasn't still nursing the sting from earlier in the week. That's when I saw it, the scarf. It was wedged into the side of her carry-on like it had been shoved in without care. Dark gray. Thick knit. Not hers. She didn't wear scarves like that. Hers were always silk or oversized and thin, used more as accessories than for warmth. This one looked like it belonged to someone who actually needed it. A man, probably. Not that I wanted to think that. But the thought came, uninvited and sharp. Whose scarf is that? I asked, pointing to it. She glanced down. Huh. No clue. Must have been from the hotel. Maybe they gave me the wrong bag. But this is your bag. She looked at me and there was something there, a flicker of something too fast to name. Then maybe someone else's stuff got mixed in. Can we not do this right now? I nodded, but my mind didn't. Something else hit me then, her coat. It smelled unfamiliar. Sharp and heavy like a cologne I'd never worn. Not mine. Not even close. A scent I could still smell hours later, faintly on the passenger seat headrest after she tossed her coat in the back. I asked her about that too gently. Your coat smells different. She didn't miss a beat. Probably from the flight. I was crammed between two guys. One of them practically bathed in whatever that was. The dismissiveness of it was too smooth. Too ready. I didn't push. Maybe I should have. Maybe everything would have been different if I had. But back then, I still wanted to believe the problem was me, my overthinking, my stress from work, my own trust issues. That I was creating a narrative because I had too much time to fill in the blanks. You always do this, she said suddenly, voice rising just enough to signal she was escalating. You always read into everything like it's a conspiracy. I'm not, I said. It was our anniversary. And I told you I had work. What do you want from me, Lucas? Do you want me to quit? Would that make you feel better? That's what she always did when she felt cornered, turned my concern into control. My observation into an accusation. I'm not asking you to quit, I said. I'm asking you to treat this marriage like it matters. Oh, so now I don't care about our marriage? She *T back. This again? No. Forget it. And I did. At least, I tried. I told myself that this wasn't a hill worth dying on. That it was just a missed dinner and a misplaced scarf. That I was overreacting, like she said. But something shifted in me that night. A small fracture. Quiet, but permanent. Because the thing is, I knew Haley. I knew her routines, her tells, her way of avoiding certain questions. And that night, I saw someone I didn't recognize. Someone defensive, cold, and oddly detached. And still, I didn't argue. I sat in the silence she left me in and convinced myself that nothing had changed. Except it had. I just didn't have the proof yet. When she went to bed, I stayed up. Sat on the couch in the dark, trying to replay the conversation in my head. Trying to convince myself it was all normal. That I was just being paranoid. But I wasn't. The next morning, she was cheerful. Made coffee. Kissed me on the neck. Showed me a photo of some mural she saw in Chicago. She acted like nothing had happened, and maybe for her, nothing had. But for me, that was the day I started wondering who I was really married to. It's strange how quickly something small becomes something irreversible. A scarf, a scent, a sentence said in just the wrong tone. You look back and realize that was the moment the script flipped. The moment you started watching instead of trusting. Observing instead of feeling. And from that day on I did. Quietly. Carefully. Because I knew something was wrong, I just didn't know how deep it went. After the scarf and the cologne, I promised myself I'd stop making excuses for things that didn't feel right. Not accusations. Just observations. That's how it started. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't tracking her phone or reading her emails. I just started noticing things again. Not the way a husband notices his wife, but the way someone watches a stranger they used to know. And once I let myself look, I started seeing all the things I had convinced myself were harmless. Like how she started working late. Not just late, but consistently late. Always something. A conference call with a European client, a broken server, a fireside chat with her boss and his leadership team that somehow required cocktails and silence when I called. She used to text me when she was on her way home. Lately, I just hear the door open hours after dark. And her phone, that changed too. She used to leave it lying around without a thought. Now, it never left her side. I noticed the way she kept its screen down, even at dinner. I noticed the new password she didn't bother to share. And the way she took it with her into the bathroom at night. Locking the door. Turning on the faucet like static over her voice. I don't know when it became normal for me to sit in bed while she was 2 rooms away with the door closed and her phone glued to her hand. But it did. She said she was tired. That was her new reason for everything. I'm just exhausted, babe. That's why she didn't want to talk after work. Why she barely touched the meals I made. Why she pulled away when I reached for her in bed. But then I'd see photos online, her company's event recap, a coworker's tagged story. Haley in the background, champagne in hand, arm around someone's shoulder, lit up like she didn't know what fatigue felt like. Smiling. Energetic. Effortlessly present. Not the woman who brushed past me at home like I was background noise. And yeah, I know what people would say. That I should have confronted her. That I should have drawn a line in the sand. But it's hard to draw lines when you don't want to admit you're standing in quicksand. I remembered a night, maybe a month before the Chicago trip, when she said her car broke down. Battery's dead, she told me over the phone. I'm just gonna crash at Mel's. Don't wait up. At the time, I believed her. Mel was her coworker. I'd met her once at a team barbecue. I didn't question it. I even offered to come get her, but she brushed it off. No, seriously, I'm fine. It's late. Just sleep. Now, looking back, I wasn't so sure. It wasn't that I didn't trust her. It was that I wanted to trust her. There's a difference. The kind of trust where your brain has doubts but your heart votes against them. Where you sit on the couch alone at 1 a.m. staring at the door, telling yourself this is marriage. That everyone hits rough patches. That this is what it means to grow through it. I started keeping mental notes. Not as a strategy, just as a reflex. She'd say she had a team dinner but come home without leftovers. Say she was in back-to-back meetings but her hair would be curled and her makeup done like she was headed for a photo shoot. Little things. Things that didn't add up. One night, I walked past her in the hallway and caught a glimpse of her phone screen. Just a name flashing in the banner, Graham. I asked casually, "Who's Graham?" She paused. Just for a split second. "Oh, he's new. One of Derek's analysts. Super green. I'm mentoring him." She said it like it was nothing. Like I was ridiculous for even asking. But that was the first time I heard the name. Graham. She started mentioning him more often after that. Little references. Graham's project was a disaster today. Or Graham sent me this meme, cracked me up. I'd smile, play along, pretend I didn't notice the way she said his name like it tasted familiar. I don't know why I didn't push harder. Maybe because I didn't want to know. Maybe because part of me still thought this was salvageable. That if I was just patient, she'd come back to me. But she didn't. She became this version of herself I didn't recognize, a version that existed in boardrooms and lounges and airports I didn't belong in. She was always rushing. Always just 5 minutes late or on my way, promise. But never on time for us. We stopped doing the little things. No more Sunday morning pancakes. No more watching terrible crime documentaries under a shared blanket. No more post-work hugs in the kitchen. I once told her I missed her and she laughed. Laughed like I was being dramatic. "You're so needy lately," she said, scrolling through her phone. "You good?" I wanted to say no. I wanted to say, "I'm unraveling while you live a double life 5 feet away from me." But instead I just nodded. "I'm good." That was the beginning of the end, I think. Not the affair, not yet. But the slow unthreading of our connection. Like someone turning the volume down on our marriage one notch at a time. There was a kind of grief in that. Not explosive. Just constant. Like a faucet that never fully shuts off, dripping into the back of your brain, drop by drop, until it's all you hear. I started staying late at work. Volunteered for extra shifts. My patients noticed. "You okay, doc?" they'd ask. I'd smile and say yes. Because that's what people like me do. We fix things for everyone else. We just don't always know how to fix ourselves. I remember a Thursday evening, late October. She came home laughing into her phone. Didn't see me in the kitchen. She said something low and in asterisk mate. I couldn't make it out, but the sound of it, the tone, wasn't for me. When she saw me, she jumped. Hung up fast. "Sorry," she said. "That was Mel. Just venting." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. She kissed my cheek like an afterthought and disappeared upstairs. I just stood there, staring at the stairs, wondering how many lies could fit between two people before silence became the most honest thing in the house. It happened on a Wednesday. Ordinary by every measure, cloudy morning, slow hospital rounds, back-to-back charting. Haley said she had a team offsite. Strategy retreat, she called it. I didn't ask where. I'd stopped asking for specifics. That night, I got home around 7:30. The house was empty. Quiet in the way that used to feel peaceful and now felt hollow. Her laptop was on the kitchen table, half-closed, charging. That alone was strange. She never left it out anymore. It went with her everywhere like a second phone. I don't remember making a conscious decision to look. It wasn't premeditated. More like muscle memory. My hand brushed the trackpad and the screen lit up. A notification popped up in the corner. Message from Graham. I didn't open it. I didn't have to. The preview alone told the story. "Graham, miss you already. Counting down till next weekend. Can't stop thinking about that morning." I just stood there, staring at it. My pulse in my ears. My mouth dry. All the oxygen in the room seemed to vanish. That was the moment. The moment everything I'd been avoiding hit me all at once, like gravity finally remembered it had a job to do. I didn't move. I didn't rage or throw anything or scream. I just stared like a man seeing the last puzzle piece and realizing it completes the wrong picture. Then I sat down. Her email was open in a browser tab, still logged in. I didn't go looking for it, not at first. But now? Now I needed the truth. Not assumptions. Not suspicions. Proof. The inbox was filled with work. But tucked between project updates and Slack exports were names I didn't recognize. Or rather, names I did, but not in this context. There were emails from Graham. Lots of them. Some flirty. Some banal. But others in asterisk made in a way that shattered every last benefit of the doubt I'd been clinging to. One subject line, "You looked unbelievable in that dress." Another, "Still thinking about Chicago." I clicked. I shouldn't have. But I did. Inside were photos. Selfies. Hotel lobby *TS. One of them, taken from a room high above a skyline I couldn't mistake, the unmistakable outline of the John Hancock building lit up through the window. Chicago. Same weekend she'd missed our anniversary. There was one image, blurry but clear enough, of Haley in a robe, on a hotel bed, her bare legs tangled in white sheets, smiling up at the camera like she'd never smiled for me. Not in months. My stomach turned. But it was the video that did it. A short clip attached to an email labeled simply, "Replay Red Heart." I hesitated. I wish I could say I didn't open it. But I did. It wasn't graphic, nothing that crossed a line in terms of exposure. But it didn't need to be. The way they looked at each other. The way he pulled her into his chest. The sound of her laugh. That's what gutted me. The laugh. It was the one she used to give to me. I copied everything. Dragged it all onto a flash drive I kept for backup files, watching the blue progress bar inch forward like it was measuring the death of something sacred. When it finished, I ejected the drive and tucked it into my coat pocket. Then I sat back and waited. She came home late. I didn't confront her. I didn't even look her in the eye. Just said I was tired and went upstairs. She didn't notice the silence. Or maybe she did and mistook it for the same dull detachment we'd both grown used to. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, hearing every noise in the house. Every step she took. Every door that closed. My body was motionless, but my mind was moving at 1,000 miles an hour. I had the proof now. The truth I'd known in my gut for weeks was no longer invisible. It had a face. A name. A hotel room. And still, I wasn't angry. I was numb. There's this moment when you stop being hurt and start being removed. Like your soul steps out of your body to observe what's happening from a safe distance. That's how I felt. Like I was watching the collapse of my own marriage through soundproof glass. The next morning, I left before she woke up. I took the flash drive. Packed a small bag. Didn't leave a note. Just left. I didn't know where I was going when I got in the car. I just drove. Ended up checking into a rental about 20 minutes across town. One of those corporate temporary housing places with beige walls and cable that still required a remote with numbers. It didn't matter. It was quiet. And it was mine. That night I emailed a lawyer. I didn't ask for a consultation. I didn't ask what my options were. I sent the subject line, ready to file. Attached the drive. No threats. No yelling. No scene. I was done talking. She texted me that evening. Where are you? Then, are you okay? I didn't reply. She called. I didn't answer. The next message came 2 hours later. Lucas, what's going on? This isn't funny. Then silence. For the first time in months I slept. And when I woke up the next day, I didn't feel heartbreak. I felt clarity. I spent that morning calling moving services, booking time off work, organizing my finances. Practical things. Methodical. Efficient. The kind of stuff I'd once handled as a partner, now doing solo with no one to check in with or circle back to. Around 1 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time, a message from her. Are we really doing this? Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. Then turned the screen off and got back to packing. Because the thing is, you don't come back from betrayal like that. Not really. You can patch it, maybe. Pretend the rip in the fabric was decorative. But it never holds. And I didn't want to live my life stitching up something that would never be whole again. That night, I stood in the doorway of what used to be our house, alone, staring into the shell of a life I thought I understood. It was quiet, clean, soulless, and I was done pretending it was home. When I left that morning, I didn't slam the door. I didn't write a letter or leave behind a speech. No last-minute confessions. No guilt-wrapped explanations. I just left. There was no fight because I didn't need one. The truth was already heavy enough. I walked out with a duffel bag, my keys, and a small envelope of documents. Everything else, the furniture, the dishes, the wedding photos gathering dust on the hallway shelf, could stay. They weren't mine anymore. Not really. The short-term rental I'd moved into was impersonal by design, tin carpets, sterile lighting, a couch that felt like it had been borrowed from a doctor's waiting room. And yet it felt more like mine than the house I had spent years building with Haley. By 10 a.m. I was sitting at a diner 2 blocks away from my rental, sipping burnt coffee and staring out the window like someone waiting for something to catch up to him. But nothing did. No overwhelming sense of grief. No collapse of resolve. Just stillness. I checked my phone. Haley had sent another message sometime around 4 a.m. Haley, I don't know what's going on, Lucas. Please answer me. If this is about work, we can talk through it. Just please. The way she framed it about work told me everything I needed to know. She still thought there was room to maneuver, to reframe, to manipulate. There wasn't. At noon, I met with the attorney. He was calm and matter-of-fact, not warm, but not cold either. He'd seen this kind of thing 100 times. Maybe 1,000. I understand you've provided evidence of infidelity, he said after scanning through the documents and media on the flash drive. I nodded. I'm not interested in dragging it out. He adjusted his glasses. You understand that with the proof you've provided, this can be filed with grounds. That gives you a strong position in court, especially with regard to asset protection. I don't want revenge, I said. I want it over. He looked at me a moment longer, then gave a small nod. Understood. We'll prepare the papers by the end of the week. When I left the office, the wind had picked up. One of those early autumn gusts that makes everything feel unsettled. Even if the sky is clear. I took the long way back to the rental. Past a bookstore. An old couple holding hands on a bench. A girl walking her dog. Laughing into her phone. The world kept going. That was the strange part. I always thought if something like this happened, something that split my life in half, the world would at least pause. That there'd be some kind of recognition. A crack in the sky. A subtle tilt in gravity. But there wasn't. People still got lunch. Paid for parking. Crossed the street. When I got back to the apartment, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my phone. No new texts. No missed calls. Just silence. Later that evening, I sent a message. Short. Clean. The same way I had left. Me, you'll receive divorce papers by the end of the week. There's nothing to discuss. That was it. No insults. No explanations. I didn't tell her about the emails or the photos or the video. I didn't ask her why. I didn't offer her the chance to confess. Because none of that mattered anymore. Knowing why wouldn't change the what. She replied within 10 minutes. Haley, wait. What? Lucas, please talk to me. This can't be how we end things. What's going on? I didn't respond. Not because I was trying to hurt her, but because I had nothing left to give. She tried again the next morning. Haley, if I've done something wrong, just tell me. Please. I deserve at least that. It was almost comical, her sudden appeal to fairness. To deserving. After months of secrets, of gaslighting and distance, now she wanted justice. I muted her number. Not blocked. Not deleted. Just silenced. 3 days later, the papers were delivered. Certified mail. My lawyer CC'd me the confirmation. An hour after that, she called. I let it ring. She left a voicemail I didn't listen to. And just like that, the thing we built together started unraveling in quiet, orderly steps. No screaming matches. No teary-eyed fights in the kitchen. No how could you or shattered dishes. Just 2 signatures on a stack of paper, and a man who had already left in every way that mattered. The next day, I returned to our house. My house, technically. The deed was in my name. Haley wasn't there. Her car was gone. The porch light was still set on its usual timer, flicking on like it always did at 7 p.m. I unlocked the door and stepped into the cold, undisturbed stillness of the entryway. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. Shoes by the door. Her mug on the counter. Our anniversary photo still on the mantel. The one she insisted we frame after the engagement dinner. I stared at it for a long time. We looked so convincing. I walked through the house like a ghost. Touched nothing. Took nothing. I wasn't there to claim things. I was there to confirm I didn't want them. The bedroom still smelled like her. Her scent was in the closet, on the sheets, in the air itself. But even that didn't hit me like I expected it to. I'd been bracing for a breakdown, but instead, I felt disassociation. Like the man who had lived in this house with her was someone else entirely. I opened the drawers. Took only what was mine. A watch. Couple of sweaters. Some letters I'd kept from med school. I left the rest. Before I locked the door, I did one last thing. I pulled the anniversary photo off the mantel and placed it face down on the entry table. Not out of spite. Not even sadness. Just a quiet acknowledgement that the version of us in that frame was gone. Maybe had been gone long before I ever noticed. I didn't leave a note. Just turned the lock and walked away. Back at the rental, I sat on the balcony as night settled in. The street lamps flickering on one by one. Somewhere in the distance, a couple argued on a phone. A baby cried. A dog barked. Normal life. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something. I wasn't bracing for a confession or hoping for a text. I wasn't replaying arguments or questioning my instincts. I was just still, present, breathing. That night, I slept with the windows open and my phone on airplane mode. And when I woke up the next morning, I didn't think of her. Not right away. 3 days after the divorce papers were delivered, Haley sent the first long email. Subject line, "You don't get to disappear." It was 6 paragraphs of circular reasoning. No apology. No acknowledgement of what I'd found. Just accusations, blame shifting, and lines like, "You've always had this controlling streak," and "Maybe if you'd listened instead of monitoring me." I read it once, then closed the tab. She was rewriting the narrative. Not to apologize or reflect, but to reclaim power. That became obvious in the days that followed. 2 more emails came that week. One said she felt manipulated by my silence. Another framed herself as the victim of emotional abandonment. She said she felt erased. That I had *p***nized detachment. I didn't answer, not because I didn't have words, but because nothing I could say would register as truth in a reality she'd already reconstructed to absolve herself. This wasn't grief from her. It was fallout from losing control. Haley didn't mourn what we had. She mourned the ability to dictate the terms of it. I watched it play out in real time. She started posting more on social media. Smiling photos, status updates about new beginnings, and growing through discomfort. She shared a quote one day about unconditional love being tested most in misunderstanding. It got over 100 likes. Not once did she mention the divorce. Not once did she say why I left. To the outside world, it looked like she was healing from something I did. I could have corrected the narrative. I had the messages, the photos, the video, but I didn't post them. I didn't even tell my family. Some of them asked. My sister sent me a cautious text. Did something happen? Is Haley okay? I replied, we're done. I'm fine. She wrote back, if you need to talk, I'm here. That was it. I didn't know anyone the details, because when something sacred breaks, the silence around it is often louder than the shattering. Haley, though, she didn't do silence. She needed audience, needed witnesses to her curated version of heartbreak. She wasn't devastated. She was wronged. She had become the protagonist of her own redemption arc, built entirely on the ashes of something she quietly burned down. And still, I said nothing. One night, she called me. I watched the screen light up from across the room. Let it ring. 2 minutes later, a voicemail. Lucas, I don't even know why I'm calling. Maybe because I don't recognize you anymore. You used to be kind. You used to care. I guess you're showing me who you really are now. Click. That line stuck with me, showing me who you really are. As if she hadn't already erased who I was by treating my loyalty like a doormat. The next morning, I got another email. Short this time. For words. I didn't deserve this. I didn't reply. But I opened a blank document and typed. No, you didn't. You deserved honesty. And so did I. I deleted it. Some nights, I still drafted things I never sent. Responses, rebuttals, reflections. Not because I wanted her to read them, but because writing helped me name the things I no longer wanted to carry. There was one paragraph I kept. You say I disappeared. But I didn't. I waited. I watched. I loved you through distance, through silence, through contradiction. I gave you space. I gave you grace. I gave you chances you pretended not to see. What you called disappearance was actually me stepping back far enough to see the full picture. And once I did, I couldn't unsee it. I never sent that either. Instead, I refocused. The apartment slowly began to feel like mine. I got a second-hand couch that didn't sag in the middle. Bought a proper set of plates and glasses. Started cooking again, not because I had to, but because I liked how the kitchen smelled when I made garlic butter and roasted vegetables. I picked up running. Something about the rhythm helped. Feet on pavement, lungs burning, thoughts settling into a dull hum. I didn't run toward anything. I just ran away from the version of myself who waited too long to walk. At work, people stopped asking questions. I kept showing up, stayed late, covered shifts. Nobody pried. The benefit of working in oncology is that pain is assumed, not dissected. Everyone carries a shadow. Mine just happened to be personal. One night after rounds, a colleague named Erin sat beside me in the staff lounge. We'd worked together for 2 years. Never talked about anything outside of medicine. She handed me a paper cup of tea and said, "You look lighter." I blinked. "What?" "Not happier," she clarified. "Just lighter. Like you finally dropped something heavy." I didn't respond. Just nodded. She didn't push. Just sat there for a minute, sipping her own tea in silence. Then she patted my arm and left. That was the most honest conversation I'd had in months. By week 4, Haley had stopped messaging. Or maybe she didn't. I don't know. I blocked her email, deleted her number. I had nothing left to extract from her version of the story. What surprised me most wasn't the pain of separation. It was the absence of longing. I didn't miss her. I missed the idea of her, the woman I built in my mind, the partner I believed in even when her actions proved otherwise. It took time to separate the two, her real and her projected self. But once I did, the grief softened. There were moments it hit me still. I'd pass a restaurant we used to like, hear a song that played during our first road trip, smell her perfume in a crowd and turn reflexively before remembering I wasn't supposed to anymore. But those were echoes, not invitations. They didn't pull me back. They just reminded me I'd been there. I told my attorney to move forward with finalizing the divorce. Haley hadn't contested anything. No counters. No claims. Just a few vague requests about emotional equity that were quickly dismissed by the facts. I signed the papers in under 10 minutes. The clerk didn't ask any questions. Just stamped them and filed them away. Just like that, it was official. Legal. Done. I left the courthouse, sat in my car for a while, and looked at nothing. Then I started the engine and drove home. No celebration. No soundtrack. Just the quiet click of a door unlocking to a place I could finally call mine. That night, I lit a candle. Not for her. Not for grief. But for peace. For whatever came next. About 2 months after I signed the divorce papers, a patient handed me her phone. "Isn't this your ex?" she asked, showing me an article. I didn't even blink. The headline read, "Tech firm manager implicated in expense scandal." Haley's name was third paragraph right beneath her boss Derek's. Misuse of company funds. Photos from hotel lobbies. Charges that lined up exactly with the weekends she worked late. The scarf, the cologne, the cover stories, it all snapped into place. Her polished reputation crumbled publicly. I didn't say anything to her. I didn't gloat. I didn't send the article. I just sat there letting the silence speak for me. It said, I already knew. 9 months later, I was living in Colorado working at a wellness clinic that emphasized recovery, not just physical, but emotional. I gave talks now mostly to professionals burning out in silence or rebuilding after betrayal. I never mentioned her name. I didn't have to. People recognized the truth in my story anyway. I started writing again, journals, essays, even a draft of a book. Not about revenge. About recognition. About how sometimes love doesn't die all at once, but erodes in missed conversations and locked phones. I wasn't looking for anyone new. I wasn't trying to fix what was already broken. Peace, I found, was quiet. And finally enough.